took this gap year, went to a treatment center for an eating disorder, spent 131 days in treatment and rehab. And that was where I finally figured it out. And I was like, crap, I'm transgender.
Hey, Schuyler.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Do you want to introduce yourself and then tell us your pronouns and identities that are important to you, as well as what you're passionate about, where you're from?
Sure. So I'm Schuyler Bailar. I'm a Korean American swimmer. I swim in college. I'm going to be a senior in the fall. I'm also transgender. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm 22 years old. I grew up in DC, and I now live in Cambridge for school. And next year I'll most likely be moving to Seattle for my job. So I've been swimming my entire life. I learned how to swim when I was about 1, the same time I learned how to walk. And I joined a team when I was 4, and I've been competing since I was 6. So swimming has been sort of the biggest part of my life for as long as I can remember. And I've always felt so comfortable in the water, and it's been my passion, my release, my peace, my social life, So it wasn't really a question of will I swim in college? It's where? In terms of my gender journey, I kind of grew up, my parents are they were kind of just, they let me live the way I felt comfortable, and they put very little rules on me with regard to my gender. And so I kind of dressed the way I felt comfortable. I acted the way I felt comfortable. I hung out with the people who I felt comfortable, and all of that was very masculine. I had a short haircut. I wore only cargo shorts and t-shirts. I hated dresses. I hated anything pink, hated anything that would assign me to woman. And my parents just kind of rolled with it. I had to wear dresses for fancy events, which is a whole ordeal. And eventually they stopped making me. Actually, that's not true. They stopped fighting me so much, and we're okay, well, just in between, we have a blouse.
Yeah.
But and then when I got to high school, I just kind of was I'm so sick of not fitting in. I'm sick of being yelled at in the bathrooms, because I always went into the women's bathrooms because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And it just got so stressful that I was you know what, maybe I just need to try to fit in. So for about 3 years in high school, I feminized, and I dressed up as a girl. I wore long, girls' clothing. I grew my hair out, and it worked in terms of people seeing me as female, but I felt awful. And I was doing fine in school. We were breaking national records at the swimming pool. A lot of things were going well for me. I was getting recruited to swim where I swim now, but I was miserable. And so that was really hard for me. I ended up deciding, I went falling really deep into mental health problems, and I ended up taking a gap year to deal with those mental health problems. And that's when, up until then, I had no gender, no verbal gender journey, no conscious gender journey, or understanding of myself. And I took this gap year, went to a treatment center for an eating disorder, spent 131 days in treatment and rehab. And that was where I finally figured it out. And I was like, crap, I'm transgender. And it was very relieving at first, but then also remember, I'm being recruited to swim on the women's team. And so that was terrifying, because I was I don't know, how do I do both, right? How do I be me, and how do I also be me, swimmer and transgender. And so I ended up deciding just to tell my coach and be hey, this is what's happening. I don't know what to do. And she was really supportive. She was hey, we love you. If you want to swim, let's do it. Ended up I decided I wanted to transition, but I was going to still be on the women's team. I was going to take testosterone. I was going to have top surgery. It was kind of this in between. And my coach was I don't know about that. Not in a judgmental way, but how is that going to be healthy for you way? So she actually talked to the men's coach, and the men's coach was all right, so you have a swimmer. She's I don't know what to do about this kid, Schuyler. I just want to do what's best for Schuyler. And Kevin, the men's coach, goes, all right, so you have a person who identifies as male, is a swimmer, and is already into Harvard, is already swimming at, or going to go to this school. I coach a men's swim team at Harvard. Why doesn't he swim for me? Which is really logical when I put it that way, right? But if you think about Division I sports, sort of Harvard's rep, the social political climate of this country, all those kinds of things, that's pretty amazing. So I actually said no initially to that proposition, but it took me a little while to feel comfortable enough and ready to take that risk. But I mean, obviously I ended up taking that risk and decided to swim for the men's team. And that's relevant in terms of my gender journey, because I wasn't going to take testosterone until after college, but being on the men's team allows me to take testosterone. So I ended up sort of like pursuing more parts of my medical transition in that sense, and getting I got top surgery before I made the decision, because like it didn't, top surgery doesn't have doesn't matter in terms of like gender in legal sports, you know. But then I started testosterone, and then I joined the men's team in that fall, and here I am. Okay, so I came out in July of 2014, actually almost exactly 4 years ago, like in, I think July 26 or something. And I got top surgery March 10th, 2015. So I guess that's exactly, well, not exactly, but it's about 8 months, right? July, August, September, October, November, January, February, March. Yeah, 7 or 8 months for me to get top surgery. And then I started testosterone 3 months later in June of 2015. But everybody's transitions are different. Like, I came out and I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. I'm very sure of this. And at least the top surgery stuff. And I luckily had parents that like supported that. It took a good amount of time, a good amount of arguing for them to really understand me, but they have always been really supportive of like me as a human. And like, luckily they were able to financially support me as well. So that sort of expedited that process.
I was just wondering, because I played D3 lacrosse and we also had a transgender goalie, but I was wondering, so if you play for a women's team, you can't take testosterone, right?
Right. So the rules are all basically testosterone based. If you're assigned female at birth, so people like me, then you don't take hormones, you can compete on either team. You can compete by the NCAA's rules. So I could compete, if I didn't take testosterone, I could compete as a woman, or I could compete as a man. Doesn't matter. It'd be like my choice, and what the school permits as well. If I take testosterone, I have to prove that like I'm allowed to take testosterone by like a documentation procedure that basically says, hey, I'm transgender. My doctor says I'm transgender. My doctor regulates my hormone levels, right? So I get an exemption form, and then I have to prove that my levels are like consistently at like normal male level, which is like a pretty wide range. And then additionally, I can only compete as male.
Okay, I see. Cool.
Yeah. On the other side of things, like if you're a trans woman, you can only compete as male unless you have proven medical intervention and hormone suppressant. So like, again, it's all testosterone related.
Okay, cool. And then you like check in with your doctor to see if it's leveled?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get labs pretty consistently anyways, especially during the beginning of one's transition, just to make sure that like the testosterone is like taking and like it's going through your body right, and like you're not having any other issues. So that all happens, and I just submit those labs. My doctor sends the labs to the NCAA so that the NCAA see that my hormone levels are legal.